Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Critical Wade Theory, where sometimes I explore stories behind iconic music. Other times I look at movies and TV shows. I talk about politics or just society in general. But today we're going to be examining a musical topic. I'm talking about one of Pink Floyd's most powerful and personal pieces, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Now, I'm not going to lie to you here. I'm not like the hugest Pink Floyd super fan or anything like that, but like a lot of people out there, I definitely know some huge Pink Floyd fans. I've become more of a Pink Floyd fan over the years. As an example, my mom is a huge Pink Floyd fan, so I definitely experienced their music growing up. So it's not like a totally alien thing to my ears. It's not totally new, but I really do appreciate a good story, and this song definitely has an interesting story. So you don't really need to be a Pink Floyd mega fan in order to appreciate the unique aspects of this song. It's in some ways more than just a song. It's like a eulogy, a reflection, and a love letter to a lost friend. It's a tribute. Shine On You Crazy Diamond opens and closes Pink Floyd's 1975 album Wish You Were Here, which is a solid album, by the way. The title song, Wish You Were Here, I've always liked that song. And I know, going back to talking about my mom again, she's always like that line about the fishbowl thing, where two lost souls in a fish swimming in a fishbowl, or I'm paraphrasing, it's something like that. But she always liked that line, and it's one of the reasons that song has a bit of a special meaning to me. And this song is definitely special too. It's split into 9 parts, and it's an epic. At the heart of it all is Sid Barrett. Sid wasn't just a founding member of Pink Floyd, he was the band's original creative force, a lead singer, lead guitarist, and main songwriter in their early days. So it makes the topic more tragic. By 1968, his mental health had deteriorated, his heavy LSD use made things worse, and eventually the band had to let him go, which can definitely be a sad and tragic circumstance. It's not always a fun story when somebody is let go from a band, basically fired from a band. And in his case, he probably was not particularly functional anyway, so they might not have had that much of a choice at that point. Roger Waters later said, "It couldn't have happened without him, but on the other hand, it couldn't have gone on with him." So, there's a great line to really emphasize that it is a tribute song. Remember when you were young, you shone like the sun. So it's a simple line, but very sentimental, and sometimes the best, most poetic stuff is straightforward like that. The the rhyming of young and sun, and some pretty straightforward and basic imagery. Not to really knock it or anything, but sometimes that's really the most effective in a song form. That opening line says it all. The song mourns what was lost, but it also honors what was: Sid's spark, his vision, and his initial brilliance. And there was also a moment behind the scenes, a pretty interesting studio moment that was definitely surreal. During the Wish You Were Here sessions at Abbey Road, Sid showed up out of nowhere. He looked completely different. You can see the image of him as the main photo for this episode, at least if you're able to look at images of this episode, of this audio episode. He gained weight, shaved his head and eyebrows, and apparently he carried a plastic bag, and it's it's kind of a funny thing because when I walk to work, to and from work, I'm often carrying a plastic bag. So apparently, some people might think that makes you mentally ill or something. In my case, I'm just carrying work related things. Like uh, work gloves are in there, for example, because I have a cleaning job, so I just keep my work gloves in there and other stuff. Um, but in his case, it probably looked kind of strange, and apparently nobody recognized him at first. David Gilmour later recalled thinking, "Who is that guy?" Then it hit them, it was Sid Barrett. He told them, "I'm really totally together. I even think I should be." And there's a bit of humor to what Sid Barrett said there, and it's one of those awkward moments where you can laugh, but you could also cry hearing something like that. It was potentially heartbreaking, and it was an unexpected visit that turned the song from a tribute into something more raw and immediate. And of course, I shouldn't talk about a song without also getting into the sound a little bit here. Musically, Shine On You Crazy Diamond is a journey. It's actually kind of famously simple, at least as the basic core foundation of it. It's kind of a minimalist song that's based around a key riff, but nevertheless, they take that minimal basic structure and maximize its potential. You know what I mean? So it starts slow, ambient, and spacey with a haunting four note guitar motif from David Gilmour. Then Richard Wright's keyboards float along and they add depth and atmosphere. And there's a sax solo by Dick Perry that, it adds a lot of, I guess, ache to the tone or to the song, to the overall feel of the song. And everything builds slowly, pulling you into this meditative, emotional space. And it shifts between blues, ambient, and progressive rock textures, sort of like the classic Pink Floyd sound. There's no rush, it just sort of breathes naturally. And that's really part of the legacy of the song itself. The fact that it feels like it's standing on its own in a way, and that's when you might have a powerful classic song when it feels like its own creature or its own entity. It doesn't need further explanation. It frankly could have been like its own album, but it's a part of this greater overall album that is Wish You Were Here. So Shine On stands as one of Pink Floyd's most beloved songs. It's not as instantly recognizable as Another Brick in the Wall or Money, but ask any fan, and well, practically any fan, and the vast majority will tell you that it hits different. And I think this song has very few haters among Pink Floyd's fan base. Not not that most Pink Floyd fans would hate their songs, but you know how it is. If you have an actual dedicated fan of any band, they'll probably actually tell you that, oh, this song is way better than that one, or this album beats the crap out of that one. They take it seriously, so they don't BS about it. They don't put on a fake front where they're like, oh, I love everything this band does at all times. No, most serious fans differentiate. They'll admit that their band has flaws, just like a lot of serious sports fans will admit that their team is not necessarily the best. They don't win, all the games that they play. They're not necessarily number one at every possible perspective. And the same thing goes for music. Anyway, this song is emotional, it's honest, it's a band processing grief, guilt, admiration, and memory, all in a sweeping composition that is really a sort of epic journey. They played it in extended forms live, and it always gets a pretty massive response. And it's one of those tracks that doesn't age. It always sounds kind of fresh. To me, it's not a song that sounds dated. And again, that's another hallmark of a song that might be a classic. It's sort of like War Pigs by Black Sabbath. When I listen to War Pigs, or frankly a lot of Black Sabbath songs, they still sound fresh somehow. And I think this song, at least to my ears, it still sounds pretty fresh. So Shine On You Crazy Diamond isn't just about Sid Barrett, of course. It's really also about the fragile line between brilliance and breakdown, about friendship, loss, and the heavy cost of genius, because a lot of people who are brilliant out there, they're basically on the brink. That's sometimes a part of what makes somebody a creative genius. They have maybe a few screws loose, for lack of a better term. I'm sure some people out there would be fuming mad about me using that analogy, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Come on, just be honest. There's a there's a classic idea of a creative genius who is also a madman. That's one of the long-standing tropes about people in the arts, is that they're just maybe one or two steps away from totally going over the edge. And that's kind of what happened here. So the song reminds us the brightest lights often burn out first, but they leave a glow that lasts. So, well, that's about all I need to say about the song. I don't need to go on and on and on about it. I think you have an idea of what makes a song special. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit the follow button, hit the like button, and check out other episodes, whether they're about music or movies or TV shows. And it's possible that someday I'll look at the album The Dark Side of the Moon. I don't think I've done that yet, but there's a chance that I'll do it. So until next time, shine on. Keep on shining on, or whatever.